Só mais um minutinho. Ok. Então, boa tarde a todos. Bem-vindos ao evento sobre Conversational Commerce com os especialistas de Meta. Sou a Diana Nasser, presidente do Columbia Alumni Association do Brasil. Mariano Garracino and Diana Dumares Sobral from Meta, thank you for being with us today. We're looking forward to learning from you. Muito obrigada, Adriano Chaves, Law 1999, pela organização do evento, junto com Carlos Felipe Rocha, Columbia Business School 2008, e Camila Tafarello Securato, Columbia Business School 2007. Os três fazem parte do nosso board, da nossa associação. Adriano é sócio na Chaves, Gelman, Machado, Gilberto e Barbosa Advogados. Camila é partner and CRO at the St. Paul Escola de Negocios and LIT. And Carlos takes care of multicultural leadership, international management, and executive and entrepreneur innovation, também no na St. Paul Escola de Negocios. O meu muito obrigado e parabéns também a todos os voluntários da nossa associação. Graças a eles, temos um calendário completo até o final do ano, com eventos bem variados, quase todos presenciais. Aliás, no 1º de setembro, vamos ter 2 eventos presenciais. Um happy hour no Rio de Janeiro, no Boteco Boa Praça, e aqui em São Paulo, uma visita guiada à exposição do Bispo do Rosário, no Itaú Cultural, um dos artistas mais influentes do Brasil. Será já falei, Itaú Cultural, e é realmente imperdível. Anuncio aqui também que amanhã será enviada a convocatória para as novas eleições para os 2 boards da nossa associação por e-mail. A AGOE será dia 24 de outubro. Estão bem-vindos a fazer parte do nosso board. É um trabalho voluntário muito gratificante, onde acontece bastante networking. Finalmente, convido todos aqui a seguirem as nossas páginas nas mídias sociais, no Facebook, Instagram, especialmente o nosso grupo fechado no LinkedIn, que é o lugar ideal para fazer networking e postar oportunidades profissionais e eventos de todos os nossos associados. Sintam-se à vontade, por favor, para postar nesse evento. Também quero avisar que esse evento está sendo gravado e, sem mais, agradeço a todos por estarem aqui conosco novamente. Obrigada, Adriano, mais uma vez, e passo a palavra a Camila Securato. Camila, é com você.
Obrigada, Diana. I'll switch to English because Mariano is going to make his talk in English. His Portuguese is great, but he would prefer to do in English. So we trained a little bit of Spanish yesterday, but we're going to follow up with the English. The topic of conversational commerce is much larger than we imagine. And I think this presentation today, the idea of bringing this content is to help to make people understand a little bit more what is the concept of conversational commerce. We are 90% of the time today, like once an hour, we are checking WhatsApp and we are doing transactions in WhatsApp. But what will be the evolution of that? So the idea today is to bring the company that is on the top and the leadership of conversational commerce in the whole world, and especially in Brazil, where this is still starting to develop. We're going to see in the presentation with Mariano that there are a lot of potential of growing up and having a better conversational commerce and experience in any kind of business. It's not only about services or products, but we can do customer service. So conversational commerce is an area that is increasing a lot. To be with us today, we have 2 amazing speakers. We have Mariano, that you are seeing the screen. He's currently Meta Latam Financial Partnerships Manager, driving payments and fintech efforts across Latin America region. He joined Facebook in 2018 to lead and scale WhatsApp business messaging across Latin America. I think you're doing a great job on that, especially in Brazil. Prior to that, he worked at Mercado Livre, eBay, PayPal, so he has a very large experience in payments companies. He has a business administration degree from San Andreas University in Argentina and an MBA from Harvard Business School. And we also have with us, for part of the presentation, Yana will be with us soon. She is the Regional Director for Publicity Policy Latin America at Meta FinTech. In this position, she leads policy and regulation engagement for Meta Financial Service across Latin America. And she'll be joining us for part of the presentation as well, the Q&A. We're going to start today with Mariano making an introduction to the concept of conversational commerce. If you guys want to make any questions, please feel free to use the chat, and we're going to do that throughout the presentation and in the end as well. Thank you, Mariano, and thank you, Yana, for being with us, and Carlos and Adriano that help us to put together the event.
Thank you, Camila, Carlos, Adriano, and all the team for inviting us. We're honored to be here and be able to share some of the knowledge accumulated here. So let me first try to ensure that I can project with you guys. Please let me know if you're seeing the screen right now. Yes?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. So thanks so much for inviting us. I know that the team has mentioned to me the interest around this topic, and really we're happy to share a little bit of the knowledge around conversational commerce, the latest, and what's happening really within conversational commerce space in Latin America at large. And I had an agenda to share, and then we're going to go to Q&A. But essentially, let me go into the next section here. For the agenda, what I prepared is a little bit to really level set the understanding of what's conversational commerce and give you a little bit of the definitions that at least we as an industry start to actually use across different conversations to ensure that we're speaking about the same type of language here. I'm going to then share a little bit more about the opportunity. We're, as Camila was mentioning, we're really at the early stages of an amazing opportunity in terms of improving commerce experiences online. And conversational commerce is really a great avenue to do this. And we're going to share a little bit more context, not only of LATAM, but also the rest of the world, a little bit of where LATAM is sitting across these different markets in terms of evolution and growth. And then the last piece is going to be more around conversational commerce within WhatsApp and some key features, essentially, or distinctions around how the ecosystem of WhatsApp operates today, so that you can understand a little bit of what are the different ways in which you can engage in the conversational commerce space. Any comments, questions thus far? We are actually intended to have a Q&A at the end, so I'll keep to basically the first piece mostly really to cover the presentation. So if you can hold your questions for the last piece, we'll do it that way. Okay, Camila, or let me know how if that works. Okay.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
Excellent. So here we go. So first, an initial definition here in terms of what conversational commerce is, and really is the way we define it is the type of commerce that takes place within messaging applications like WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Telegram, and any other chat platform available, and where users today in Latin America and worldwide spend approximately 84% of their mobile usage time. So that gives you a sense of how large is the usage of these chat platforms, and why, in a sense, many of the different activities that we have on a daily basis start to reflect in these chat platforms. Although in the case of WhatsApp, our initial focus has been basically and continues to be really in developing the best in breed features for communications. Of course, other activities around our platforms have been taking place, and this is something we're going to talk a little bit more later. But really, what is important is also on the right side, you'll see I'm distinguishing social commerce from conversational commerce, because it's a really different types of activities. I mean, In the case of conversational commerce, if you want to call it, again, I shared the definition. We have two types of activities. One that can be the conversational commerce per se activity and the purchase activity happening within this conversational commerce experience. And then you have what we call the conversation influence, the conversational influence aspect of conversational commerce. What does that mean? Well, many people today are using chat platforms to drive the initial journey of a consumer until he gets to the point of purchasing at some point in a specific, chat platform. So essentially what they're doing is they go to a WhatsApp, they have all the conversation with a seller until they decide to make the purchase offline. They go and do it on a website, or they go and do it in every single app that could be potentially managed by a merchant or seller. Finally, when we talk about social commerce, as opposed to conversational commerce, we're talking about commerce that happens within social networks, such as Facebook, such as Instagram, or could potentially be TikTok as well. So any social network has its own always tools that's offering in order to actually conduct commerce also within those platforms. We consider it different to what we call conversational commerce. Okay. Now going into the next slide here essentially what yes, you probably have been hearing a lot about conversational commerce. In many aspects is really being called the next generation of e-commerce, an evolution where really consumers start to really make more convenience choices around where they want to buy, and chat platforms having such a strong presence in the life of people are becoming a logical place where a lot of these interactions are happening also in the commerce space. So as you can see, there's a number of PR going on around next generation of commerce. Death of browsers as a conversational commerce is the future for US retailers. I know some people probably, I saw some people from VTEX in the call are seeing Mariano Gomez claiming this is a Brazilian. He's the CEO or ex-CEO. He's now I think the director of board of VTEX. What's the next generation, next in connected economy? VTEX is really seeing the opportunity here with conversational commerce. But beyond that, also there's an ecosystem that is building with many different types of service providers that are trying to tap into helping develop the best experiences in the conversational commerce space. And again, it's not only conversational commerce, and obviously the focus of this conversation is conversational commerce, but it's also developing a much better platform for interaction between consumers and sellers, okay? And this is something we're gonna touch upon a little bit within the presentation. I like this one as well, the last one. Put on your ponchos, the new wave of e-commerce has arrived. And there's a lot of more evidence we're gonna share. I'm gonna share with you guys in the next set of slides to basically perceive this. So let's get into the opportunity. When we talk about the opportunity here, we're talking about essentially we have been conducting some research to understand really how big and how important this different new channel of commerce is going to become. And what we're seeing essentially, this is research we've done with BCG, and that basically shows the importance or the penetration of commerce in terms of different, I would say, different aspects we're measuring, awareness, influence, and transactions happening today in the conversational commerce space. And when you look at markets like Mexico and Brazil, they are basically in the pack of large markets that are basically being really perceived as some of the early adopters in this particular space. And you can see that in terms of the awareness that consumers tend to have in terms of doing conversational commerce via chat platforms or via communication platforms. The influence, and here we measure percentage of influence, for example, in Mexico and Brazil. Brazil tends to be a little bit more advanced in this particular area, in these different metrics. And finally, the percentage of conversational commerce transactions, that if you look at some of the numbers, are really extremely interesting and promising in terms of really how many of these interactions are already happening, despite being, in many cases, extremely friction. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But today, essentially, what the Meta chat platforms offer are mainly the possibility to communicate, but there's no presence of the prototypical features such as payments, such as shipping, such as protection programs, and other types of complementary types of features that are very important when you think about end-to-end commerce, okay? On the right side, while most of, I would say, the most advanced markets in the world in this particular area, conversational commerce, tend to be the Asian markets, such as Vietnam and Thailand, where you see the levels of penetration of conversational commerce are among 36 to 40%. Really, when you look at countries in Latin America, they tend to be at the early stage of growth, but with very high potential for continued growth. And this is really the interesting piece of the message. We are seeing extreme traction, and this is very, very interesting because it positions Latin America as a very early adopter region where there's a ton of opportunity to continue to improve these experiences and offer new features that are going to really, really provide a platform for growth. Moving on to this same study and looking at some of the data in terms of future intent of usage in conversational commerce. On the left-hand side, you can see how Mexico and Brazil show extremely high likelihood for people to increase their conversational commerce spend, or at least buy the same that they're buying today. And in most cases, really showing extremely high intent among existing buyers, meaning people who have already made some kind of transaction within conversational commerce platforms. On the right-hand side, among non-buyers, again, the future intent of usage of conversational commerce platforms is also very high. Among 50 to 70% are saying they're gonna be likely to start to buy via chat, or at least continue to buy or make the same types of activities. So it's really interesting to see how this is showing us the future and the way consumers are even looking at really increasing their spend or their time to actually make transactions in chat platforms. Moving on to some of the expected growths we're seeing in the next 5 years. Brazil and Mexico are both really showing extremely high growth rate, expected growth rates, and really among some of the highest in the world. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is going to pan out. But really, at the end of the day, when we look at it as a benchmark to what e-commerce can be today, we can see that conversational commerce could potentially become between 5 to 10% of the total share of e-commerce in some markets in Latin America. And that makes it very, very interesting from the perspective of really a new channel that can really enable buyer and seller within these types of platforms. And finally, one important message here is, of course, Meta has really in Latin America a good share of really platforms in the chat space and a very, very strong position with WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and Instagram Messenger as well, which is really significant and very, very strong in particular in Latin America. So moving on to what's happening and sharing with you guys a little bit of what we're seeing today. A little bit of what we're seeing today in terms of commerce happening. We are seeing a lot of this commerce activity happening in our platforms, and we have been seeing it for quite some time. The pandemic has really accelerated a lot many of the different patterns in terms of commerce usage within chat platforms. And here in this example, I'm sharing an example of a transaction with Pix happening in WhatsApp, and one where a small seller of canutos, as Carlos was instructing me yesterday, essentially here we see a huge opportunity for small, medium businesses to be able to leverage these kinds of platforms and be able to actually access opportunity and really democratize access to commerce by really enabling and facilitating commerce in many cases here. And also you can see the other aspect in terms of the screenshots here is just to give you a sense on how complex today or friction the process is in terms of completing a transaction within a chat platform like WhatsApp, where you have a conversation. This conversation leads to exchange of information, exchange of pictures. Once there's an agreement on the pricing on the item, you get to the second part, which is, okay, how we're gonna pay. And then you start to exchange some of the data on your Pix account. Actually, with Pix, it's relatively easy compared to other markets where you can spend on bank transactions, even, I don't know, 20 screens where you're coming back and forth with some of the data, and you see consumers can really have this kind of very long consumer or checkout experiences at the end. And this really shows you also where you're sharing some critical, in some cases, private data, security data around your accounts. I mean, it's not the ideal, but it's already happening, and this is something that that essentially it's a reason why we see opportunity to improve these experiences. But this is something that is already happening and has been happening for quite a while. As a matter of fact, the pandemic just accelerated a lot of this and has really triggered a tipping point, particularly in this type of platforms. Across any chat platform, a lot of activity has been going on in terms of commerce. So the other piece is you probably guys are aware, particularly in Brazil, we have been meaning WhatsApp has been offering payments from person to person for quite a while, and it's been for the last year we've been offering it, and we see this as a great opportunity to send and receive payments on WhatsApp, make it as easy as sending a message, and really we would love to really continue to innovate, and this is part of a journey and something where we are learning. We're really continuing to expand on the opportunity and the different aspects of offering payments on this platform. But today, really, our focus has been on the P2P, and many businesses still are using it, even if it's P2P, for some exchange of commerce and some opportunities where they pay for services as well as sending money to friends, family, etc. But these are the core use cases today where WhatsApp is offering its service in terms of P2P payments. Lastly, I wanted to share with you guys a little bit of a quick overview of the WhatsApp ecosystem. And I know a number of you guys are probably more attuned with what we call the consumer app, which is essentially the app that most of us use to communicate with family, with friends, even with some businesses. Essentially that's a person-to-person type of platform. And this is the prototypical app that you can download into your phone and use with WhatsApp. Then the second product we offer in our ecosystem is what we call the small business app, which essentially, as some users started to leverage WhatsApp as a way to connect and sell or create their businesses or offer services via WhatsApp, we developed this app as a way to actually make easier the experience for those businesses, ensuring that they have a number of features that can provide them a little bit of a better experience. For example, we are offering today a catalog. We're offering the possibility of tailorizing automated messages. It offers a number of different features that I'm going to review in some of the slides that follow. And finally, but one last thing. This small business app is really focused in sole proprietors, so people who tend to start their business within their at their home or in their garage, or really very small businesses that want to scale and start to have a better conversation with their consumers. And finally, we have what we call the offering around what used to be the business API. Now we call it business platform, which essentially is targeted towards large and enterprise merchants. As you start to scale your businesses and want to connect with consumer, we have been enabling two main use cases, which are essentially customer service use cases and transactional use cases, situations where large companies want to let know a consumer about something that's critical in their service, or let them know about the confirmation of certain types of activities within their service, and that span across any vertical in terms of industries today. It could be financial services, it could be CPG, it could be retailers, it could be education. There's a ton of different verticals that are already leveraging the business platforms of WhatsApp. So just wanted to give that quick view. And in the next set of slides, I'm going a little bit deeper in each of them, just to give you a sense. I think the consumer app speaks a little bit for itself, so I will pass it really, really fast. The small business app, again, it's a free app downloaded onto an individual phone. It provides one-to-one manual communication, really allowing up to 4 people to communicate, respond to customer messages on a phone or in a browser within WhatsApp in the browser. And it doesn't allow any back-end integrations to the business, which is something that is not possible with this type of product. And it doesn't allow any bot integrations, okay? By the way, you can access this app easily if you go to the App Store of Google or Apple, and you can download it into your phone. And finally, we have what we call the business platform, which essentially is a paid service operated via your company's infrastructure and accessed via a UI or third-party interface like a CRM. It could be a Salesforce, it could be Oracle, it could be different types of platform providers. And we have been working and developing an ecosystem of partners that work with these large companies to ease the integration of WhatsApp business platform and connect them to their current CRM solutions, okay? In a way that is easy for these large companies that tend to have multiple infrastructures or can have really very complex IT developments. This is a way in which essentially we are getting and channeling this business platform solution. It can integrate multiple agents, and it's widely used, for example, in customer service as a way to improve customer service, as a way to actually make it a lot more cost efficient as well by combining bots with human agents. There's really tremendous amount of innovation happening in this space, and we are leading a lot of that innovation with our tech ecosystem in place as well. with that, I wanted to actually give you, these are the 3 flavors we have for the WhatsApp platform. And I wanted to make sure that you had in mind those different scenarios, because they're part of essentially the way we are approaching today the business offering from the WhatsApp platform perspective. Just to illustrate a little bit of, and this is the last slide I prepared for today, really just to illustrate the types of advantages that some large businesses are seeing. And these are actual numbers, real numbers from cases we are seeing in the industries. We are seeing cost efficiencies of 5x in terms of lower acquisition costs versus other digital channels. We're seeing really how companies are leveraging WhatsApp to connect with users in a way that provides a much better and more efficient type of channel. Even customer care, we see customer service agent efficiencies. So essentially, agents being able to take a lot more calls by basically taking them via WhatsApp and managing text and voice in some cases. We also see, for example, conversion increases when users leverage the WhatsApp platform in terms of, we've seen it in terms of loan conversion rates, for example, and in terms of also managing new accounts or really bringing new users to the service of large companies. So there's been a plethora of examples here. And we have tremendous traction in this particular area where we've been developing a very, very strong ecosystem. I think with that, I will stop and just really open it up for questions and comments or anything you want to discuss in more detail.
Great, thank you, Mariano. I think there is a huge market for us to learn more and as companies, as leading companies, to have the best shot in having the experience through conversational commerce. There are a couple of questions here. I think Carmen is with her hand up, so I think she can make the first question and then I move to Adriano.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Mariano, maybe you stop your screen.
Let me get it off. And
can you guys hear me?
Better now? Yes.
Perfect. Thanks for the talk, Mariano, for sharing the insights. Very, very interesting. I have a quick question on one of the first metrics that you mentioned. You mentioned 84%, if I'm correct, of the time spent on apps is on conversational. I just wanted to clarify what the 84% is. Is it 85% of the time people spend online is on conversational, social media, and conversational apps?
It's 84% of the time that people spend on mobile apps is spent on chat apps, including Messenger, including Telegram, including WhatsApp, including this is a metric that goes for all chat platforms, and that make it very important when you think about it in terms of how important, when you look at the overall consumption of users of the different types of apps you have in your phone, 84% of their time is spent in those types of platforms or apps, I'm sorry, on chat apps, basically.
Yeah, that was surprising to me because it seemed a bit way higher than I expected. If I'm thinking, for example, social media like Instagram, people scrolling through feed and so on, versus talking to other folks, other friends or businesses on Instagram Messenger. So I would assume that Instagram Messenger would be considered a chat platform, conversational platform, and would be counted for, but if the person's scrolling would not.
Yes,
and same thing,
yes, you're
like
right.
TikToks or YouTubes or whatever.
You're right,
okay.
Carmen. Yes, those types of platforms will be considered as part of what I would call communication platforms or chat platforms. Yes.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Mariano, thank you. We have a question from Adriano. He's asking, are these tools facing any regulatory challenges in any country? And I'm not sure Yana is back, but I think she could also contribute to this question.
We can cover with Diana when she's back. Yes, I mean we can cover it for sure.
Okay. From my side, we talked a little bit yesterday about how the companies are leveraging data over WhatsApp and what kind of information they are able to connect and in the best way to connect. We talk a little bit about privacy and encryption. Can you explain a little bit how the conversation platforms of WhatsApp and Facebook are doing to make sure this data is only on the places it should be and regarding the security of the platforms?
Yeah, sure. So in general terms, I mean, one of the big differentiators really of a conversation, more than of a platform like WhatsApp has always been the end-to-end encrypted platform. And it's part of the DNA of WhatsApp because its founders were essentially people who were subject to some of the, non-wanted privacy violations in their markets where they came from, actually. One of them was from Ukraine. And so this end-to-end encryption technology that WhatsApp has, and that basically does not enable anyone to actually be able to see the material or any communication happening between WhatsApp users, is part of the DNA of WhatsApp and the company. And one that also the company has been seeing as a very important one for not only WhatsApp, but the rest of the chat platforms. So we're emphasizing the importance of privacy across all of our chat platforms, and we have a plan to actually move to do that across all of the chat platforms. In terms of the usage of the data, many cases what we actually work on is in providing a frame for the ecosystem and service partners to be able to actually serve the merchants and provide some of the aggregated value of understanding many different instances of connections, but we are at no point basically sharing any of the material or messaging that is happening in these types of conversations or any types of conversations within our chat platforms. The intent here really, and as we see the evolution of conversational commerce per se, we see ourselves more like a platform that enables the connection and then essentially let the consumer and merchant leverage these platforms in the best way they can to actually accelerate or make less friction their connection happening today in the world of the chat platform. I think in general we are what we see in some cases is the macro data that comes out of interactions happening in certain verticals or certain types of experiences tend to be aggregated very well by parts of the ecosystem. And what I mean by that is BSPs, or what we call business services providers, tend to get very highly specialized in specific verticals of industry. For example, it could be in education, it could be in commerce, it could be in banking services, or I would say financial services or retail services. And as they become more experienced in these particular areas, essentially they become better at suggesting best ways to approach consumers, to actually offer, I would say, highly tailored types of recommendations for merchants to be more effective in the channel. But at no point we're using any data from specifics that are happening in the communication between consumer and sellers.
Yeah, I think from our personal use here at Sampo, it's good because we can have the data using TakeBlip, where Carlos used to work, right?
Yeah.
As a platform for WhatsApp, it's good because we do have a lot of information regarding the flow, but not exactly the conversation per se. The aggregate data for us is very useful to decide how we're going to build the next bot, how we're going to build the next conversation, and how people are interacting.
Exactly, and that's the value we see in the ecosystem, and really, when we think about the ecosystem, we tend to really direct the value to be really packaged in a way that can be leveraged by the merchant, but not affecting at any point the privacy or even the type of information that consumers are using in our platforms.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. We do sell a lot through WhatsApp, so anything that gets better, it's something that we're gonna implement here. Talking about a little bit about the future of conversational commerce, for now we are talking about some apps in a phone that we are still having to send a voice or to tap something. How do you see this future using voice devices? How the conversational commerce connects with the voice devices, and how do you see in this increasing the part of the e-commerce within the conversation commerce? How do you see the future for that?
At in general level, Camila, I would say usually what happens is really where we're looking and tracking consumer adoption of different technologies and different types of technology, you know, in the usage of WhatsApp. And as we see that these technologies become really widespread or become a really great opportunity to enhance or develop a less friction experience, we tend to adopt them. We usually tend to test and really see if these types of new technologies really become widely adopted or can become widely adopted by testing at a small scale first, and then really take it to the next level. But at the same time, our company invests tremendously in really continuing to understand the consumer, understand really what works well, what doesn't, and the moment we see these kinds of new technologies that could potentially enhance this experience, we tend to actually go after them. So we are tracking this type of technologies. To be honest, I think we have there are so many other aspects today that are maybe more pressing when you think about commerce, like I don't know, shipping, payments, other types of frictions that tend to be important at the moment consumer does a checkout. That it's still I'm not sure, or I would say we are keeping it in mind, but not something we're seeing as such a big entry point at this point. That said, also the other thing or aspect to share is in general, the voice feature in WhatsApp has been really extremely successful, and one that, as you can sense, probably many of you guys use and leverage every single day, because it's extremely convenient. It makes it easy. It makes it even more secure in many aspects to use.
I always say there is this magic button in WhatsApp that you press, and the other person on the other side of the line even answer at the real time. when someone says, I was not able to talk to you, I was okay, press the call button, because it's very useful sometimes as well, right? I saw that Yana joined us back.
Yes.
Yana, I wanted to put the question for you. Adriano is asking, are these tools facing any regulatory challenges in any country? It's very broad, but I think it would be good and nice for us to hear a little bit of the challenges depending on the region.
Thank you, Mila. Thank you, Adriano. So yes, I think we can call them challenges, but I would also say that I think what we are actually facing is the fear of the unknown, perhaps, and how we can build that together with regulators worldwide, a broad understanding on the right way to actually regulate conversational commerce, not only in WhatsApp, but in platforms in general. Coming specifically to the work that we are doing in Latin America, we have very different ecosystems in the region, with regulators that act differently, that have different appetites for regulating the market, for intervening in the market. And we as a company need to cope with that differences, right? So now we are specifically working on a project in Brazil where we've received clear guidance from the central bank, and we are following that plan with them and with other market players. And but I understand that this applies more to the case of Brazil. When we look, for example, other countries such as Colombia, Peru, Chile, we have different regulatory landscapes with different challenges. So I don't want to be oversimplistic about the challenges that we have, because the challenges also relate to the reality of each market. So for example, in Brazil, we have a fully consolidated four-party payment schemes with the networks, right? Whereas in other countries, we are still developing that acquiring market, and we are still decentralizing some of the payment players and payment systems in those countries. And with that reality comes specific challenges. But I would say, Adriano, that in general terms, we see that regulators are welcoming the possibility of leveraging conversational commerce, because it relates very well to the economic reality of our countries. Conversational commerce has a great role to play in leveraging small and medium enterprises, and we know that in our countries, SMBs are a powerful engine of growth. And they also can help informals that are so common and so numerous in our economy. So I would say that regulators are welcoming conversational commerce solutions, but the way that they build the regulatory approach to them is it's not really the same, and we need to have this mind opened to a tailor-made approach.
Thank you so much, Iana. It's very interesting. One question. In Brazil, it's very common for consumers to sue platforms as well, right? Not only the supplier, unfortunately. Do you see the same level of litigation with your WhatsApp conversational commerce tool as in other platforms, or is it different, or is it about the same level of litigation?
That's a very good question as well, Adriano. We don't see that as a major risk, but we do see room for improvement in terms of how we can offer additional layers of protection to users so they can feel comfortable and safe in using our platform for daily business. So yes, we understand that Latin America is a place where we tend to litigate more. We don't see conversational commerce as an outlier of that reality, but we do see the potential for building additional layers of protection to avoid that conversational commerce falls into this trap.
Thank you so much.
One of the things that when Meta launched the payments in WhatsApp, I thought the adoption, especially in Brazil, would be faster than what I see today. Like I still pay a bunch of things in Pix or the credit card link. And how do you guys see that? And what are the main challenges and the main opportunities there? And how are incentivizing companies and small business to use the payments within the app? Because it's an amazing function, right? But I don't see, at least my perspective, and I asked 3 or 4 people here said that haven't used it. One said that he used it here in the group. So how do you guys see that development in the next couple of years?
So I can speak a little bit to that. Really, we are at the early stages, as I mentioned before, of something that can be much bigger and much wider. We started, and generally speaking, we're really working with Brazil as one of the early adopter markets in the world for WhatsApp, which is something that I feel, even being an Argentinian, I feel very proud about. You know, it's like amazing to have a country in Latin America leading in this kind of space, and I see there's a ton to learn in this journey. And at the same time, we are trying to ensure that we are doing things in the right way in each market we operate, in the way we can do it sustainably, and we can do it really in a robust, scalable way. And so to that point, we see ourselves really ensuring that this product works really, really well. And at the same time, you know, I mean, after what we've seen in the pandemic, I mean, we see an opportunity to make a less friction experience to new use cases. We are working to actually make this happen. We cannot disclose a lot more than that right now, but really, we see tremendous opportunity to enhance and continue to expand some of these use cases. And something that even within P2P, we continue to expand the number of issuers that are actually being able to be used, to your point, Camila, about many people maybe not knowing yet. We haven't maybe done a ton of marketing thus far, because we also want to ensure that we have the right, you know, base of usage adoption and understanding of how to scale the service in order to actually do it. But it's a little bit of a different process than when you just operate in communications or communication features. I mean, payments, you have to respect the culture, you have to understand really well the markets, and really be attuned to be able to actually expand a payment service. So we're doing it thoughtfully and in a way that we really are going to be serving, at the end of the day, our users, which are a very big amount of users in Latin America.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. It's test small, then go big, right? It's an important strategy.
Yes.
Carmen is with the hands up. I'm not sure she has another question or she didn't put the hand down. Carmen, do you have a question?
Right.
I do. I do have another question. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the data that you can share with businesses. You referred to privacy and encryption and so on, but you did say that you do share data in aggregate with your clients. So what kind of data can you access and share? Do you get to say things like, you know, X percentage of your customers are using exchanging images or voice calls or audios versus, you know, written messages, or do you not even get to see that kind of information? Do you get to see any of the content that they were talking about, sentiment analysis, anything like that? Thank you.
Carmen, today, from the perspective of information happening in the thread, I mean, we respect tremendously this information. We will not share information under the way we are operating today, and we're not sharing any types of content information from single conversations or even in aggregate level. What I was mentioning was maybe more in the case of the ecosystem players, as they become very specialized or highly specialized in certain areas, but they have more of this general knowledge, and maybe Carlos can even illustrate some examples in his experience in Take. But really, at the aggregate level, honestly, if there's information regarding, you know, images or so on, I don't have a clear answer there. I don't believe we are doing any type of sharing of this kind of information. But what we do is try to understand at an aggregate level what are the types of features that can enable, like voice messaging, for example, those kinds of data that at an aggregate level can help us enhance the service. but nothing at the specific level, and nothing we share with merchants or any participant in the chain. Yeah. Hope I answered, Carmen. I don't know.
Sort of. So even for your own sort of like, feature development and so on, do you get to see, even if you're not sharing with them, I get that with clients, but do you get to see when a person shares a message over WhatsApp, whether it's a voice message or an image or text, or you don't because it's all encrypted and you have no idea what people are sending?
I don't know for sure, but yeah, in the end-to-end encryption doesn't allow us, and we are the most respectful, particularly with these types of situation. So I don't know if there's a way that development teams can understand the types of protocols, or, but I don't really know at that level. So I cannot really answer you. If you want, I can check and get back, but yeah, I don't have a clear answer on this one.
Okay, thank you.
I think Carlos wants to make a question as well, or add a comment on that.
No, Mila, just that Barbara asked the question in the chat and perhaps you didn't see it. So I was just making sure that Barbara can pose her question here to the team. Please, Barbara.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because I can see a huge market, especially for small and medium enterprises in Brazil and Latin America, using conversational commerce. But for me, it seems at first that that you guys have, are you guys focusing on large companies, on smaller companies, and how can you guys insert and make this kind of technology more available for this small and medium enterprises?
So, I mean, generally speaking, there's tremendous adoption, Barbara, and you're right in terms of permitting connection between consumer and small businesses is an amazing tool. It's an amazing tool that really democratizes the access to technology, but also to people who tend not to be bankerized, who tend not to be, really accessible to technology other than via their phone. So it's an amazing channel, and it's one that is really becoming adopted. What we are doing in some cases, as we're in Brazil, we can see some of the, I'd say, most advanced features you can see for WhatsApp are happening today in Brazil. And an example of this is catalog. I mean, we are offering catalog so that a small seller can, effectively have a catalog within their WhatsApp chat. That in and by itself can be a huge paid forward in terms of a small, medium business, a very small business, be able to actually display much more effectively his products or her products and essentially drive a purchase funnel, okay? But as I mentioned before, what we can do is really continue to understand these types of pattern or usage and continue to enhance that kind of behavior by working with the markets and understanding really what are those key friction points in order to make them easier. And I'm referring here in both communications and ensuring that we keep the communication aspect or the communication aspect of WhatsApp a very, very well enhanced tool, but also in this particular use case in conversational commerce, which is a one that it's of really high interest for our users as well.
Yes, complementing Mariano, and there is also a great connection with WhatsApp and Instagram and Facebook platforms in terms of a very fluid conversation and the way to moving within the products that are very used by the small companies as well, right? So we're moving towards the end.
Absolutely. And Mila, one more example that actually builds on what you were saying. In many cases, the users are showing us what they're doing. I mean, you probably as users or some people kind of have your Facebook page or your Instagram page, and from there on you connect with a potential consumer in WhatsApp via a click to WhatsApp button in the page. And so even we learn from our users in terms of the types of experiences they are building up in across our platforms.
Yes, and one thing I like about the functionality of WhatsApp versus messages, SMS, from at least from the point of view that I have, is that there is a great effort from the Facebook group, Meta group, to not be able to make a lot of spam in WhatsApp, right? When today we are in an email and the spam is a problem, right? I'm a salesperson. I want to send a message to as many people as I want, but to send the right message to the right people is very important. And I think the work that the WhatsApp platform overall do in terms of you have to approve this initial message. So you have to focus on the transaction or in your customer service. If you are doing just a spam, they will block your number, your platform, and this is, I think, from the user point of view, you can also block a work. You can report the spam. So I think that's a functionality that works well and helps the small companies to be able to talk to the clients. Because if everyone is sending so many messages as today emails happens, we will have a problem of space for the small companies, right?
That's a great point. And Camila, as you can see, for all the audience, the comment is a pro user of our platform, because yes, you're actually referring to a very specific, feature that is very important. At the end of the day, we don't want to become the next, email platform. We want to ensure that we are providing users a way to communicate effectively and avoid, obviously, spam and non-desired messages. And we're building the platform in a way that enables that type of, relevant interaction.
Yes. Carlos has the hands up. It's the last question, so we keep it in the schedule, and then I'll say my final words.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Mariano and Yana. It was amazing. My question would be for those here that are interested in learning more and actually implementing such services in their businesses, what would be the next steps? What do you guys suggest in terms of, how can I take this and actually bring into reality, into practice, start learning a little bit more about it and eventually implement this technology? I understand that the majority of the Brazilian entrepreneurs and businesses are not using based on your chart. So how, can some of these colleagues here become a visionary and a trendsetter in that sense?
Thanks for the question, Carlos. And yes, look, there's obviously two ways in which you can start, and particularly usually for and small, as I was mentioning, sole proprietors, small, medium businesses, you have the opportunity to leverage the SMB app. And what I will do, I think that is going to make it easier, is essentially provide you a starter video so that you can actually share with the community. And if anyone is interested, has appetite to actually test the platform, it's as easy as really starting by downloading the business app of WhatsApp into your phone and starting to operate and leverage some of the features that are differentiated from what we call the consumer app. That's on the small, medium size. Small, I would say more small sole proprietor size. On the medium, large, and enterprise level types of companies, the process is a little bit different, and I'm happy to share a slide that gives you the starter toolkit, if you want to call it, and with the links needed. Generally speaking, there's two ways. I mean, you can either try to do it direct, which is the less of the cases we have. In most cases, enterprise merchants leverage our ecosystem of partners to integrate the WhatsApp platform, business platform, because it really not easy to integrate into existing CRM, as I was mentioning before. And but there's two basic functions here. You need to create your business manager account, which can be very simplified process when you work with a business partner, as I was mentioning. And the second one is you need to identify very clearly your use cases, the types of metrics you have for those use cases, and start to really test out. And A/B testing is part of this process, as it's an ongoing process. So you need to take it very seriously, almost like if it were you're building a new communication channel for your company. So that's where the expertise of our partners also comes into play, because they can help you ramp up and add a lot of value in really leveraging the tools available in the business platform. So what I will do is I'll provide the two, options depending on the type of interest that the community of Colombia in Brazil has.
Great, thank you. I want to thank you all for coming and being with us, especially Mariano and Iana, and Adriano and Felipe and Carlos that help us to put together. Don't forget about the next events, Happy Hour in Rio, September 1st, and visit here in São Paulo, September 1st. I hope to see you guys there. Barbara will send again the information on the chat groups, and you guys have the email as well. Thank you, Mariano. Thank you, Iana.
Thank you all. Good night. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. All the best.
Thank you. Bye-bye.